let's break down the weapon balancing changes that came in yesterday's update. As usual, I'll only be covering weapons I've already done stat guides on, and I'll be going in alphabetical order. So let's start with the AMP63. I won't be showing before comparison on the AMP63 because this is actually a completely different build. But for the actual stats that changed, we're looking at the damage. In the first damage range, you can still see that the upper torso damage is pretty great still, and it's competitive, and the lower torso damage is average. However, its head and limb TTKs aren't that great. In the second damage range, you'll be losing to most assault rifles and many SMGs. And in the third damage range, you may be beating some SMGs and most pistols if you're hitting upper torso and lower torso shots. So as you can see, the AMP63 is now more of a sidearm, and most of its points are in mobility, since after 14 meters, it really isn't that great. While I haven't covered the AS-Val directly, I did mention it in my very first video. Anything you hear about it not being that great, that's not true. So as long as you're hitting your head and upper torso shots, you will still be destroying most other players. And the second damage range was unchanged, so it's just as good as before. Next up is the Modern Warfare MP5, which I just covered last week. What mainly changed was its lower torso TTKs, and it actually got a slight buff in the third damage range upper torso TTK. But since most of us are using hipfire builds, that means that since we want to get head and upper torso shots, we're going to be aiming a little bit higher, because we do not want to be hitting those lower torso shots anymore. This may not be the greatest thing when you're trying to use it against someone, but if someone's using it against you, this may give you the few milliseconds you need in order to beat them if they're hitting those lower torso shots. So we may end up seeing a little bit less hipfire and a little bit more ADS with these builds. And lastly, we have the Sykov. It still does have an extremely competitive upper torso TTK, so if you're hitting those headshots and upper torso shots, you may still be coming out on top. Just try not to get too many lower torso and limb shots because that will bring you down to below average. So this is useless beyond 13 meters. Even if you're hitting head shots and upper torso shots in the second and third damage ranges with this weapon, you will be losing to most other weapons. These changes truly make the Sykov feel like a sidearm now though. You will be able to beat many people under 13 meters, but only under 13 meters. And that means you better pair this with a well-balanced weapon. No longer a long-range weapon with an extremely long ADS time. A time mag cap though still makes it a better choice than the AMP63 in my opinion. With the Sykov, you can still take on teams of 4 without reloading under 13 meters, if you engage them one by one. Whereas with the AMP63, you may be able to take out 2 at a time, but you would have to take some time to reload. But I think this patch made me start swapping my Sykov for the AMP63 only in my long range weapons. My balanced builds are still using the Sykov. So that's the update. What do you think about the changes? And if you played since they came out, do you think you can feel the difference? And if there's any part of the game you want me to break down, whether it's a weapon, build, or mechanic, let me know and you may see it on the next Community Wednesday. But that's the video. If you enjoyed it or it's helped you in any way, let me know by leaving a like. If you got any questions or comments, leave them down in the comment section down below. And if you want to make sure that you never miss another video, be sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching.